What is good? What is good? We are live. We are live. Yeah, I was gonna record this as a video, or like just a regular video, but I don't know. Just do the live stream. I have stuff to do today, and I wanna. Yeah, I have things to do today, so I don't want to waste time with all the extra bullshit. I do apologize. I look insane and I sound retarded. I woke up and got a fucking. I think this is like I've been in Texas for like 6 months or something. I've been in Texas for like 6, 7, 8 months or so, and people would always talk about how crazy the fucking allergies are, and thankfully they like never hit me. But then today I woke up and it was like, no, fucker, today's the day. No one is, no one is safe. No one is safe, but today is the day you're gonna get got. So anyway, okay, enough preamble. So today I wanted to talk about. I saw this going around. I didn't really like dig into it at all, so I thought, why not just do it publicly on on my YouTube channel. Which, by the way, welcome to my YouTube channel. I post stuff like this a lot. I post like a lot of, I do a lot of stuff on the internet, and this is where all the extra stuff lies. I got comedy podcasts, music podcasts, conspiracy podcasts, and then this is where everything else lies. So we stream, and also twitch.tv/AndyMalfrino. We stream, so whatever you want, I got it for you. Anyway. Let's hop into this. This was very interesting because I saw a bunch of people going fucking nuts because they were like, ooh, Carroll ratioed Elon Musk. And I was also kind of, in a recent stream, in a recent video, I was also kind of like, not shitting on, but it was after the Sean Ryan stuff where a lot of people were looking at Sean Ryan like, yo, is this dude a fucking Fed? Or I shouldn't. Well, I guess he's like ex-military or whatever. I guess people were more so like, is he working like directly with the CIA to just put out confusing bullshit, or and to like promote, OG neocon bullshit and shit like that? Is he doing that, or is this guy just like a useful idiot? And I was kind of talking about that, and I saw I was bringing up two other guys where I think there's this thing in like the conspiracy community now where they realize that sort of the Pandora's box has been open. There's like a lot of things that they can't just go like It's like there's too much factual information out there. They can't just keep going, that's not true. That didn't happen. Shut up. They can't just keep doing that. So rather than denying it, I think I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if there's like certain like controlled opposition types out there to sort of the thing like a lot of people accuse Alex Jones of, where they're just kind of like flooding the marketplace of ideas with so much goddamn information and doing all this extra shit. And then when it comes to actually like, okay, what do we do about it? They kind of just, kind of hit you with, pro-government or sort of pro-status quo solution. And I watch a bunch of Carroll shit. I don't know if I'd consider myself a fan, but I've watched a fair amount of his stuff just because it's very informational. But my thing that makes me a little suspect about the gentleman is like you get to the end of his videos and he's like, that's why we just need to get the right people in charge, or we just need to have better regulations. And you're like, I don't know. So he could just, be bad at the dismount. He could be amazing at information gathering, which he's an amazing resource for that. Which, as we'll probably see here with the crazy long reply and shit like that. He's amazing resource of information. He could just, he may not be working with the Fed. So that's the other, I want to be gracious with him. I was just sort of expressing like, some stuff seem a little weird here. And it's just when you've been doing the conspiracy shit for a while, it's just exhausting when you see a new guy pop up. Who knows? Maybe I'm just being a fucking hater. But anyway, you see a new guy pop up. He's really good at the information, bad at the dismount. I think I would suspect the CIA pumps some of these people in here to sort of like make people, because my whole thing is like, when I see a dude that doesn't have bad, or that has like sort of these pro status quo solutions and shit, it feels like a guy who's been sent out to make everyone feel like something's happening. It's kind of like with the Martin Shkreli thing when they were going after Martin Shkreli, and a lot of people saw that, and then they were like, oh, okay, they did something about this. It didn't fix it, but they did something about it, and people felt like they got a little sustenance from the situation. But in actuality, Martin Shkreli's not a unique case. Everyone does that shit that Martin Shkreli was doing. He's the pharma bro, guys, if you don't remember. But, like, the thing with that case was everyone does that shit. It's just Martin Shkreli was, like, he was the sacrifice. He was the guy. He was willing to be the bad guy. So they kind of put all their energy like, oh, look, it's just him doing this shit. It was the same thing when Netflix put out the fucking Jeffrey Epstein documentary where they're like, wow, isn't it crazy that he's the guy who does this shit? He was working alone. So they kind of, like, do that to make people feel like something had happened, but in actuality, nothing has happened. But who knows? I could, I've been, the more I learn about history, the more I learn about history and all this political shit, the more I realize it's safer to be, keep everyone at arm's length until they've truly proven it. So I'm not saying Ian Carroll's sus. I'm just saying, he could just be wrong he could just be bad at the dismount. You know what I mean? So I also wanted to get that out there because I felt like I was overly critical of him in the last one. And then on top of that, you see something like this, which looks like he's kind of hitting a strong anti-Israel thing. And once again, even if he is a fucking Fed, which I'm sure he probably isn't, but even if he fucking was, I mean, the dude's getting good info out there, so there's that. But anyway, I'm rambling. Let's just see what happens. So Elon posts this.
What set of actions?
Oh, and I should say this out of the gate. I'm not a big fan of the whole like, oh shit, he fucking ratioed him. Which, now that I'm looking at it, is kind of misleading. Like, he technically did. Like, you see this reply, 131,000. And, like, because people were talking about this, like, oh my God, look at that insane ratio. And it's like, well, not really, because that's the reply to this. Because, I mean, you could look at it like this, and it's like there's no ratio. And then Elon just did if you guys seen the video before, I'm not one to sit here and just, like, knee-jerk defend Elon. I'm very mixed about the gentleman. But regardless, like, if we're just talking ratios, because I'm not a big fan of the whole, like, oh, he fucking ratioed him. It's not, like, it's that thing where you like, like, when people say Twitter's not real life, you're like, well, that's not completely true. Because it's actual, like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of bots, and there's a lot of, like, how they say misinformation, and there's a lot of extra bullshit, and there's a lot of, there's just a lot of extra shit all the time on the internet. But, like, it is, it's a decent tool to test the waters on how people are feeling about shit. You know what I mean? It's still that. I know it's not real life in the sense that, like, if you went to the store, if you just went to the store, it's not going to be like the same energy as if you were on Twitter. I get that. But also it is kind of real life. So, it is indicative of something. So that's why I'm always mixed about, like, the ratio thing. And also the whole, like, being like, oh, motherfucker, I just fucking ratioed you. And you're like, I don't know. There's something about it that just feels very cringe to me. It is, there's information you can gather from it, but it's usually, I don't know. They always try to act like it's some, like, David and Goliath, and it's usually just like, I don't even know. Cause, like, usually when I see, especially if it's people I like, if I see them hit a good ratio, I'm like, well, that's a good sign of something. You know what it is? It's like the bragging about the ratio. When they're like, they just fucking ratio. I'm about to ratio you. I hate stolen. I hate stolen cool guy valor. It's like, you didn't really. Hey man, we're still dipping our toes into this gay internet bullshit. So, maybe it's like people who post that, like, I ratioed that motherfucker. They're posting it like they just put some shades on and walked away from an explosion in an action movie. You're like, it's not that. It's something, but it's not that. So. Maybe we pull it back a tad, just a little. You can feel a little joy about it. But maybe pull it back. And on top of that, everyone's just sort of framing it as this. And you're like, yeah, this was just a reply to Ian's reply. And all he's saying is, what am I missing? So there's not really a lot of meat there to really go after. And then Ian Carroll posts basically like a short article. He posts like a fucking, entry you could, a Wikipedia, a portion of a Wikipedia article. He basically posts that. So it's like, this one has substantially more substance than this has not a lot of substance. So of course that's going to be the ratio. And then if we really look at it, you got the video he's got here, which is 100,000. And now that's still a decent ratio, 30,000 over the richest, most famous man in the world. Or maybe who's more famous, him or Trump? Probably Trump, but I don't know who doesn't know who either of those two guys are. You know what I mean? So it's hard to tell who's technically more famous. But yeah, so that is something where it's like, this is the guy who, Ian Carroll is the guy who just sits on the internet and makes TikToks breaking down complex conspiracy issues and stuff like that. So there is that. And that is, I will say, that is kind of insane. Yeah, people are posting stuff like, that's not the real ratio, brother. That's not the real ratio. But yeah, people, it is kind of insane that this is the fucking TikTok dude. Sorry, my allergies are really bothering me. This is the TikTok dude, and he's hitting more, and this is a good sign too, where it's just like, having good info on your side is more important than, being the richest guy in the fucking world. But anyway, I'm talking too much. Let's actually watch this thing. Let's see what Elon posted.
Those people either need, what set of actions result in the greater good in Israel? I mean, obviously, you cannot have people who, if they want to slaughter everyone in Israel, you got to stop that. There's no way. Those people either need to be killed or incarcerated, or they will simply try to kill more Israelis. This is what it amounts to, obviously. And they want to kill Americans too, by the way. Generally, like, Israel is referred to as the little Satan in America. We are the big Satan. That's what the Ayatollah calls us. A lot of what's happening there is people are being taught to hate, in Gaza from when they're like children. They're taught to hate, and that's really the thing that needs to stop for there to be, long-term peace. Hopefully, you just cannot have the kids be taught to hate from the moment they can talk. That's fundamental. So one has to do the difficult thing, which is to, yes, eliminate Hamas, exactly. I think also going forward, anyone who's teaching hatred in Gaza or elsewhere, they need to stop doing that. That can't be acceptable. We have to stop, kids being taught to hate America in America. So then the third thing that's also very important is that there has to be economic prosperity in Gaza. So this is very difficult. Provided kids are not taught to hate and there's long-term prosperity, I think there will be peace in Gaza. An example of that, after World War II, with Germany and Japan, they were defeated. They obviously did terrible things, but changed the education system. And unlike World War I, we helped rebuild Japan and Germany. The Marshall Plan. Instead of exacting vengeance, America insisted we're going to help rebuild Germany, we're going to help rebuild Japan, and now they're our allies. And there's been no war ever since.
All right, so Elon just pumping out a adorably tone deaf post where he's just like, so fun. This is what's very irritating about, you see people where they're just like, everyone has these aggressively anti-Israel sentiments, or they like, when the context of Hamas, they're just talking about Hamas like, Hamas is just a bunch of jerks. We were just hanging out, doing nothing. Sup, Dunbar? How you doing, Dunbar? Just posted a quick little video over here. Not doing a whole stream today. I didn't want you to get offended, but that I'm not over on Twitch, Dunbar. Just doing this to get a video up real quick, and then I'm gonna go podcast with Pat. But Dunbar, you're a tried and true motherfucker. Hopping in here, brother. But yeah, back to the Elon thing I was talking about. It's funny because it's incredibly irritating when you're trying to talk about these issues and you hear someone just still say this. It's like incredibly irritating, and it's also just exhausting at the same time. And it's like this weird thing where it's like you get mad, but then you're also just like, you know what? You just have that kind of energy because you're just like, how many times? It's just like it gets to a point where you're like, oh, the pro-Israel side is just willing to. They're just down to either lie or be willfully ignorant. Because it's like, I don't know. And even I've heard a lot. I've said it before, but I've heard a lot of people make like a very generous sort of, what the fuck am I trying to say? Just like a very, the less harsh version of it is just always like, yo, Israel, you guys get that, like, you guys kind of overreact. It's like when you hear all the stuff where they'll talk about like, they'll be like, oh, what? Hamas wants to just get us out of here. It's like, oh, we're not allowed to respond. It's like, yeah, you're allowed to respond, but I think I made the analogy before. It's like Israel's like Brock Lesnar and Hamas. Israel's like Brock Lesnar and Hamas is like a third grader with a bat. And then the third grader hits you with the fucking bat. And it hurt. Don't get me wrong. Like, even Brock Lesnar, if a third grader came up to him and like backside of his head hit him with a fucking bat, that would hurt Brock Lesnar. But then if Brock Lesnar turned around and then like kicked the third grader, then knocked him over, grabbed the back of his head and just kept slamming him and slamming him and slamming him into the ground, there'd be a point where you'd be like, okay, Brock, chill, brother. Like, that's kind of what people are saying is like, first off, you are on you stole the land. You just did. Don't give me this argument that's like, well, in the Bible, it said, you're like, okay. That's not now that we're talking about Palestinians in the early 1900s owned the fucking land. And then you guys came in and you were buying the land fairly, and then eventually the fucking UN was like, yeah, let's just give you guys a bunch of this land. And, you guys stole the land. And then you always make the analogy where it's like, well, what did America do? We did the same thing. And then we told the Indians are bad, and we gave them reservations. And it's, it doesn't make it right. It's just, we acknowledged it at least. And, so they always just, it's just, and I kind of respect how locked in they are on this shit. I kind of respect it because it's like they just never give in. They just try to control the narrative or control the vibe. But it gets to a point where it's just like so obvious that you're like, brother, you can't keep it. So it's just irritating that you just keep hearing this where, all the sensible people are making the solid argument where you're just like, yeah, no, I mean, you're allowed to protect, the whole Israel's allowed to defend themselves. Yeah, obviously. But like, you got to understand, going back to my Brock Lesnar analogy, that's how you're defending yourself. So like, to just see this, to just hear it get brought up in a real tone deaf, like Israel was just chilling, not doing nothing to no one. And then Hamas is just fucking jerks. They're just fucking jerks. So, having that, just having like zero context to the situation. And then the same thing where they go like the anti-American, it's like, I hate when people bring up this shit and then they're just like, and it's just a given that they're wrong to be anti-American. Now, I love America. I love American people. I think the American people are some of the best people ever. I think we have the best, we're not perfect over here in America, but we have the best fucking culture. I think we're the best country. Now, I may have read one or two things about what our government does, and I think a couple other people have read that. So if they maybe conflate our government with the whole country in general, can you really fucking blame them? It's just this, like, this, it's so fucking ridiculous. This mindset, I don't know what the fucking word is. Like, it's just tone deaf. It's just tone deaf. But it's also very, like, pretentious. The energy he has at the same time where it's like, how could you be, you know what I mean? It's this thing where you're like, how could you be anti-Israel? How could you be anti the American nation? And you're like, well, I don't know. Have you read history? Like, have you Have you read anything? You know, so it's this weird thing where, and it makes you wonder, like, okay, can we trust Elon? Is he compromised or whatever? But yeah, it's just, yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to rant for that long on that. It's just very irritating when you're like, dude, how many times do we have to have this conversation? How many times do we have to knock down these terrible arguments, these terrible statements? And you're like, oh, it's not about having an argument. And it's why we just need to go like, okay, dude, Israel, you guys can do your fucking thing. You're clearly not down to behave in good faith, and you're clearly just in it for your own shit, and you're going to use and manipulate everything to promote your own shit. And that whole vibe is not beneficial to the American people. So hey, can we just do your damn thing? Let's stop sending them money. You're on your own. Like, that's what we should just do. Just because Israel, you know, I mean, I'm anti-foreign aid in general. It's fucking retarded. It doesn't make sense that we just send all these countries all this money all the time. But regardless, like, not even going that far on it, it is just, you look at Israel and you're just like, hey guys, you don't know how to act right. You don't deserve any of this. And you're making, you're just your existence and how you're linked up with us is a detriment to the United States of America. So hey, let's just amicable divorce. Have a good one. See you around at the next holiday party. But anyway, so yeah, so he posts this. Ian Carroll writes, for being so smart. And I think that's an important thing to point out. These guys are smart, but they are, I think sometimes, like a dude like Elon Musk, who, what would you call him, like an engineer? Like, what would he be specifically with the spaceship shit? Well, I guess he was like a programmer first, and now he would be considered more of like an engineer if he's working on spaceships and stuff like that. But regardless, I do think a lot of these dudes in like traditionally, I've seen it before. Like I have family members who are, they're smart in a more traditional way, and you can tell it, like when you're intelligent in a way that makes that like society as a whole validates that intelligence, you then become a little bit pretentious and you think you're just in general smart, when in actuality you just know those things a lot. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's the same as, like, if you talk to a dude, I could go up to, the guys I used to work with at my day job when I was working in a warehouse. If you just kind of talk to them about world issues and the news, they don't know what's going on. They're going to give you like the mainstream, unthought out, uncritical opinion. You know what I mean? But you ask them, if some dude playing college football is going to be a good prospect, or who's going to win the Heisman and why, or who should get the MVP in the fucking thing in the fucking NFL and why, bro, they'll be able to talk your fucking, like I used to work with this guy, and if you're, I don't think he's going to be watching, but if you're watching this, Vinny, shout out. I loved you. I loved working with you. No disrespect. Vinny was a very retarded person. He was very stupid. I'm just saying that because if he was watching, I love this dude to death. But I worked with the dude, Vinny. Dumb guy. Literally, I remember one time I was at work and I was telling him, I was like, I was reading this. I was talking to someone else. I was reading this book the other day, and just unprompted, Vinny goes, "You fucking read? You fucking loser." And I go, "Oh, dear heavens, Vinny. Oh, no." But, dude, you ask him about football, he's Rayman. And, like, there's a lot of dudes like that. But the problem is that's not sort of the type of intelligence that's celebrated. You know, if you know a bunch of shit about that, dude, there's guys like, actually, it was funny. I was going to say my wife's stepdad, which he is actually a smart guy, but on the surface, he comes off as your like typical blue collar guy. But when he's actually a pretty intelligent dude. But when it comes to working with your hands and fixing shit, dude could fix anything. Dude could fucking renovate anything in the goddamn house. So it's like a lot of these people who have sort of traditionally celebrated intelligence, they forget. It's like, no, you're not. That doesn't necessarily mean you're an intelligent person. It just means you're really good at that thing. And I think Elon Musk sometimes falls into this category where he's really he's really smart at traditionally intelligent shit. And then when you see him, like I saw it with him with talking about when he was going on about Dogecoin and he was going on about crypto. And here's the thing. If you're going to, I'll just put the short version of it. If you're going to promote Doge over Bitcoin, and you just the short version of it is like, you're just letting me know you don't have a strong understanding of why Bitcoin's the better crypto and shit like that. And I'm not saying I'm fucking smarter than Elon Musk. I'm just saying, like, this dude just having the sort of traditionally praised intelligence, he thinks he's smarter in a lot of shit. So yeah, seeing comments like this, I fully agree with Ian Carroll on that. For being so smart, you're exceptionally bad at understanding this one issue. Kind of weird. Which was very funny, a very solid bait on Elon Musk. And he goes, what am I missing? So, and then here was the big epic post. And let me get a little bit of water before I hop into this. So this was the big epic post Ian Carroll has allegedly clapped the richest man in the world's cheeks with. The AIPAC purchased the seats of about 90% or more of our current Congress. JFK famously wanted them registered as foreign agent right before he was shot, and thus they changed their name and never registered. Why are we letting a foreign lobby buy off our Congress? Yeah, this, by the way, is why I'm like, maybe it's just showing how not good at this shit I am. Because when I see stuff like this, I'm like, dude, you're like, this can't just be fucking you. The way he will, like, a day later have all the, like, info, but that he could just be, he could just have that right flavor of autism that lets him organize it. So I could just be a fucking hater. Who knows? It's like I always talk about. I remember when I first, I forget if it was like before or no, it was when I started. It was at the beginning of starting comedy. I was like it still am, but I was a big like Legion of Skanks fan. That's how I ended up stumbling across Dave Smith. And I went to go, him and Big J were doing a show. And I went to go see the show. And I was like, I talked to them afterwards. I talked to Big J, telling him really funny, da-da-da. And then I talked to Dave because I was more of a fan of his at the time. And I was like, I remember I heard him on Ari Shaffir's podcast, Skeptic Tank, sorry. Obviously, it's not Septic Tank. But Skeptic Tank, which I was always bummed Ari got rid of because I thought it was fucking great. I mean, I guess his new one's kind of the same, but I really like Skeptic Tank. I wish he never got rid of that. I was always a huge fan of that. He's one of the best, like, interviewers out there. But no, I would hear Dave did an intro a while ago where he was just going on and on and on about China. And I remember talking to him, and he was very nice about it. But I inadvertently asked the dumbest question ever. I was just like, yo, dude, it was crazy how much you know about China. I was like, how do you know so much about China? And he very politely essentially let me know. He's like, I read a bunch. I was like, oh. You read the info and then remember it. I was like, oh, okay. So who knows? This dude could just be, I could just be a hater and this dude could be really good at it. But like, it is, maybe it's props to him that I think it's like, dude, honestly, this happened to me one time in like 8th grade. Me and my buddy, Dane, his name was, we were both doing really good in our algebra class. And then our teacher pulled us aside. She's like, what are you guys doing? What's going on? Are you both, I don't know if she thought we were cheating, but she was like, are you guys having like a challenge so you both do really good? And we're sitting there like, huh? No, we're just doing good in the class. So it could just be that. I could be doing to Ian what my 8th grade Algebra 2 teacher was doing to me. It's like, people just, whatever. I'm just being a hater. Anyway, that Isreal was obviously the state sponsor of Jeffrey Epstein, whose handler was Ehud Barak, ex-head of Israel military intelligence. His funding was Les Wexler, one of the world's richest Zionist philanthropists, and he was accused by ex-Mossad assets of being Mossad. Not to mention the Maxwell connection. They had blackmail on Clinton and many, many more. He who holds the blackmail holds the leash. Just ask J. Edgar Hoover. Israel is the only nation. Oh, wait, that Israel. that Israel is the only nation who has a de facto sanctioned yet actually secret and unsanctioned nuclear program, a program that they stole from the United States. Look into the Apollo affair, Numek, and Dimona nuclear facilities. That Jews, Muslims, and Christians lived side by side in peace in Palestine before the Rothschilds purchased the country from Britain during World War I. See the Balfour Declaration, and began their colonial program. That the groups. Wait, why does he keep starting it like that? What am I missing? Oh, he's saying that. What am I missing? That the groups that founded Israel, Lehi, Irgun, and Haganon, were declared terrorist organizations by Israel itself because their tactics were so deplorable, bombing British and Palestinian civilians. Yet these three paramilitary groups rebranded to form the IDF, and their leadership became the leadership of Israel for the following 30 plus years. That Israel is a foreign nation halfway across the world that has no business receiving my tax dollars. Why are we sending them billions of dollars of our tax money while our country burns, is overrun by illegal immigrants, etc.? All the things Elon it says he gives a fuck about. Yeah, dude, honestly, ever since Elon's H1B comments, it's kind of been a little transparent. Like, this dude's his like outer shell's cracking a little bit. You can kind of tell, like, this dude, like I always say, always keep a billionaire at arm's length, especially when they get into politics. But I didn't think, I may have underappreciated how much of a phony he was, because it's ever since the H1B, he's just coming out to be more and more and more of a phony. Or I could just be paying attention to more. Who knows? We were told Israel is our great ally, so why would they have had a massive spy network targeting U.S. government agencies leading up to September 11, 2001? See the Israel art student DEA report for copious evidence of Israel surveillance all across the continental United States. Is official government report that cites hundreds of incidents of observed Israeli surveillance teams documented by the U.S. government agents all across the continental U.S. Yeah, this dude either... I hate to keep harping on this, but this dude... And he's probably not a Fed. Honestly, like, reading shit like this, I'm like, that's insane that if this guy's a Fed. He's probably not a Fed, but... it's just like he either has a team or he just has documents upon like Word documents just ready that he can like autistically bring up, and because this is crazy, like insanely thorough, or he's just a fucking man. Who knows? And we still have received zero answers on why there were numerous fake Israel moving companies positioned all across the eastern seaboard leading into September 11, 2001. We have multiple eyewitness reports as well as hard photographic evidence that they knew the attacks were coming at least a day before they did, and that they were positioned at a vantage point to photograph the attacks up to half an hour before the first plane hit. Never got any answers, but you can read the official FBI report about the incident. I've broken them down live on X before. That's just a small list of some of the best documented reasons why I, as an American, don't want Israel receiving any of my tax dollars. And I didn't even mention my obvious objection to the collective punishment, mass surveillance, forced starvation, bombing of refugee camps, brutal murdering of women and children that have been going on in Gaza and the West Bank for decades, which you can watch in graphic detail right here on X. And that's not to mention that somehow we let Congress pass laws outlawing anti-Semitic speech despite our own First Amendment, and we have boycott legislation in multiple states, despite the fact that it's perfectly legal to boycott American companies, just not Israeli ones. Every content creator knows the fastest way to get demonetized, bans, and slanders to be critical of Israel. I figured you would have realized this too after what they did to you and tried to do to X last year. Yeah, and this is why it's such a good point at the end, where like the Elon shit is so like disheartening, but you see it all the time, so it's like you shouldn't be surprised. But I think, I don't know, I want to. This could be, I don't know. It could just be the fact that like you get let down every goddamn time. So maybe just naively you just hope that something's gonna like rattle in place and Elon's gonna fucking get it. But I just don't think. I don't even know if it's about getting it. I just think it's about him getting what he wants. you know? So I think it's becoming more and more obvious that, because these fuck ups by Elon are just too obvious at this point. It's like, dude, you really don't fucking know. I don't even think, I don't even know if Elon gives a fuck at this point about Israel or anything like that. I just think like the Trump shit, him teaming up with Trump, it's him securing more government contracts. And also he's clearly obsessed with like being the dude. And I think he just wants to be the dude. And it's hard to not, so that's why he's also leaning into the popular shit. But at the end of the day, he's got to keep Israel happy. And yeah, he's going to fuck, I guess, I don't know. It's weird. It's so weird. I mean, this just makes you think too, like, because I think from, like, with all the shit Elon does in America, he just needs to keep the government happy. But at the same time, Israel's so intertwined with the government, if he doesn't keep Israel happy, then they could be like, fuck this guy, don't let him have his goddamn thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean, like, I'll be honest, as the days go on, it's because people would always post that picture of Elon with Ghislaine. Fucking shout out Kurt Metzger. He would say Ghislaine so many times when I'd listen to him on shit that I just instinctually call her Ghislaine. But no, he like everyone posts that picture of Elon with Ghislaine Maxwell, and people do that. They would do it with Trump, and you'd be like, yeah, that doesn't like inherently mean anything. It's the same thing they would do with Diddy. They'd be like, what were you doing with Diddy? He was like, I was at a party. They were hitting Drewski with that. If you guys know Drewski, he's like the comedian dude. He's kind of big and stocky, and he posts clips, and he's always doing streams with Kevin Hart and Kai Cenat, and he's a funny dude. And I saw him on a podcast, and people were trying to be like, yo, you were at those Diddy parties. He's like, yeah, I didn't, but I left at like fucking midnight. So there's a lot of people who go to like fucking Diddy parties. There's a lot of people who go to Diddy parties who it's like, most of the people who went to a Diddy party probably didn't do any of the shit. Didn't do any of the like weird, creepy shit. Sorry. Yeah, most of the people who went to a Diddy party didn't do like the weird, creepy shit. It was the people who hung out till around 2, 3 a.m. that like after all the normal people left. So it doesn't inherently mean just because you have, it's like, dude, there's probably a bunch of billionaires there's probably a shitload of billionaires and rich people and influential people that have been in a room with like Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell. It doesn't inherently mean anything, but it's just the constant defending of Israel. It doesn't mean anything per se, but it makes you more and more and more suspicious of all that shit. But yeah, I will say this definitely does make me less suspicious of Ian Carroll, because, well, this was a solid dismount. And dude, I didn't think he would. It's funny, like usually with the Israeli shit, when people are like, why is everyone mad at Israel? You talk about how they've like abused the Palestinian people. Dude, motherfucker went straight to like deep cuts. He went to deep cuts, and it wasn't until the end he was like, oh yeah, also Palestine. So that was strategically very fucking smart. Very fucking smart way to do that, to really just like bang them out with deep cuts. And yeah, man, that was sick. So yeah, it's ironic. It's funny how I guess the last thing I'll say is like the funniest thing I'm realizing about this is how Elon's like painted himself into a corner. He's kind of painted himself into a corner a little bit, because he's like, his whole thing, this is the freedom of speech part. Because it's like if he can do these little things where he's like, oh, you have to make the app a little more positive, little bullshit, gay shit like that. He'll do little things like that. But if he's like too blatant about stopping shit like this, like he can't. That's where he's sort of painted himself into a corner, because he's like, oh, I'll get Twitter, freedom of speech. That'll help. That'll keep me in the good graces of the people. That'll help me, I'll use that to get Trump elected. Trump's elected. I'm in the office. Hell yeah, hell yeah. But then for like long-term reasons, because if you notice too, the way Elon is top dog is really it's similar to like whenever you'd see the price of Doge go up, because Doge isn't like, it's a meme coin, so it's literally gets more popular if people are joking about it. It's like the only time Doge has really risen is if people are being like, oh, this is hilarious. Now, I will give Doge props. It doesn't drop that hard. It'll hit a peak, and then it'll usually plateau a decent amount higher than it did last time. But it's also long-term not going to be good because it's not like a hard asset. There's not a limit on the Doge you can create. But so Doge just goes up in numbers the more whenever it's funny. You know what I mean? Whenever you're able to make jokes about it and be funny about Doge and shit like that, that's when Doge goes up in price. And I think Elon's a similar way. Is Elon only really has value because, like, you got to think about the shit he makes. Like, Boring Company. He needs the type of shit he makes. He needs the public and the government in his good graces. He doesn't actually provide like a product that normal consumers can have. So his stock, what am I trying to say? His benefit, or like, it's just beneficial to him to be perceived as like the cool guy or whatever, however the fuck you want to talk about it. Because if you look at his companies, like Boring Company, that's just him drilling tunnels, and most people would just be like, I mean, it's not like a consensus that that's what we should be doing. If you ask most people about that, they'll be like, I don't fucking know. And then you see the videos, and it's like the way they do the tunnels is just like, bro, don't go in those if you have claustrophobia. And it's like I've seen the videos of like how they do the tunnels, and you're like, bro, one thing goes wrong, it's a catastrophe in there. And then SpaceX, that's not really like regular consumers can't really get. I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's cool. We should be trying to go to space and all that shit, but you don't really get, the support for that comes if people are hyped about it. And then, in Tesla, and it's like, let's be realistic, they're getting cheaper, but normal people are still not able to afford Teslas. And even if they are able to afford it, it's still not, well, they're able to afford the car, but the general, like getting a charger and doing all the extra shit, it's not conducive to their life really yet, So that's why Elon needs people in his good graces. He needs people hyped on him more so because he doesn't have anything to really directly give to the common man. So that's why it's like, he's kind of painted himself into a corner. Like, if he wants to be Israel's bitch and he wants to suck off the government and he wants to just make it, if he wants to just behave in a real take my ball and go home way, he really shouldn't have planted his flag in the free speech place, because it's just the irony of, you have an example like this. It's a very sweet irony of seeing the free speech platform coming to bite him in the ass, and it's like, yeah, you also have to be straight up. That's the thing about freedom of speech, is it's very easy. It's very exposing when you're being a fake fuck, and that's what it feels like with the Isreal thing. The Isreal thing feels like he's being a fake fuck because it's such a tone-deaf, boring, heard it 1,000 times opinion on the Israel-Palestine situation. So, yeah, good job, Ian Carroll. I apologize. I don't think you're a Fed anymore. This ruled. Yeah, have a good one. Thanks for watching, guys.